Hello everyone, I'm Saranya, second BCom Department of Commerce from KCS Kasinagar College of Arts and Science. Now we are going to see about shares and its type in a company law. First of all, we are see to meaning of shares. The capital of a company is divided into units of equal amount. Every unit is called as shares. The persons who owns the shares is called as shareholders. It is an ownership security. For example, if the total capital of the company is rupees 1 lakh, it's divided into 1000 units of rupees 100 each. Each unit of rupees 100 will be called as shares. The next one is type of shares. There are three categories of shares such as preference shares, equity shares, deferred shares. Now coming to preference shares. Preference shares are, as the name suggested, are preferred first before others. In financial context, they are preferred in terms of getting dividends before any other types of shareholders. So I told you this an example. If there is any type of shareholders, preference shareholders could be the first one to get dividend. They usually don't have any voting rights on corporate matters of the company except when the company is making decision related to the dividends on preference shares. Dividends are paid a fixed amount per year expressed as the percentage of a nominal value of the share issued. For example, a $10 of 10 percentage preference shares means that the preference shareholders will be get a dividend of $1 every year. In case of winding up or shutting down of the company, the preference are the first one to be paid when considering any category of shares, although bondholders and debenture holders or any other type of creditors is paid first and only then preference come into the line. But again, a bondholders are less risky and paid first, but preference shares offer higher returns and higher risk also. Preference shares are different types based on different rights. Cumulative preference shares, non-cumulative preference shares, participating preference shares, non-participating preference shares, convertible preference shares, non-convertible preference shares, redeemable preference shares, and irredeemable preference shares. So these are the some different types of shares. So next one is cumulative preference shares. Cumulative preference shares are a category of deferred shares, and like preference shares, dividend are paid first to be holders of these shares. But one thing that differentiated it from the typical preference shares is that if a company missed the dividend on preference shares due to some financial trouble like lack of money, extreme losses, then in case if the company manages to come out of the situations and it's fine now and earning profits, then all the dividends that the company was supposed to pay the cumulative preference shareholders should be including the current dividend that is due all the accumulated dividend that the company was not able to pay but was supposed to pay to cumulative preference shareholders. So previous all dividends plus current dividend equal to final payment for cumulative preference shareholders. Preference shares are always cumulative unless the contrary is expressly stated in Article of Association. The second one is non-cumulative preference shares. In case of non-cumulative preference shares, is dividend is not paid in any particular year. Dividend is not allowed to accumulated and such unpaid dividend will not be paid in subsequent years even though sufficient profits or earned. The third one is participating preference shares. In addition to the fixed rate of dividend, similarly such these shares have a right to participating in a surplus assets of the company on its winding up after paying full the preference and equity share capital. The right to participate in a surplus profit or surplus assets at the time of winding up is available to preference shareholders only if it is specifically expressed in your articles. In other words, preference shares are presumed to be non-participating unless specifically stated otherwise in your articles. The next one is non-participating preference shares. These shares are entitled to only a fixed rate of dividend. They do not participate either in a surplus or in a surplus assets. In such a case, the entire surplus goes to equity shareholders. If the articles are silent with regard to this right to participate in a surplus profit or surplus assets, the reference shareholders will be considered to be only of non-participating type. The next one is convertible preference shares, where preference shares entitle their shareholders to convert their preference shares into equity shares within a specific period. They are known as convertible preference shares. Next one is non-convertible preference shares, where preference shares cannot be converted into any other equity shares. They are called as non-convertible preference shares. One issue as preference shares, they continue to be only preference shares throughout the lifetime of the company without any changes in their characteristics. Next one is redeemable preference shares. Redeemable preference shares are a combination of redeemable preference shares equal to redeemable plus preference. That is, preference of redeemable shares. The benefit for shareholders is getting the dividend while the company has the power to buy back the shares. These preference shares are bought back by the company after a specified date. According to the term like redeemable shares, the shares can also be redeemable only by not profit of the company or money received from fresh issue of shares. And the last one is irredeemable preference shares. Any preference shares that cannot be redeemed during a lifetime of the company is known as redeemable preference shares. The next category is equity shares. Now we are seeing what are the equity shares. Equity share are those which are not preference shares. They are also called as ordinary shares. They are entitled to get dividend only after a fixed rate of dividend is paid to preference shareholders. Similarly, at the time of winding up of a company, only after returning preference share capital in full, and if there is any surplus, it will be paid to equity shareholders. The rate of dividend varies from the year to year depending on profit earned by the company. The larger the profit, the higher may be dividend or equity shareholders. In case of decrep reputed companies, rate of dividend paid to equity shareholders is far higher than the fixed rate paid to the preference shareholders. However, when there is no profit in any year, equity shareholders' dividend for that year will not be paid as arrears to the dividend in such year, even though profit may be very large. Equity shareholders are entitled to vote of all resolutions. Now coming to deferred shares, there is nothing special except the fact that the type of shares receive the dividend last. When any other types of shares is supposed to receive a dividend, then deferred shares has to wait in order for them to receive the dividend, and only then they will be get paid. Actually, there is no obligation that the company has to pay dividend on this category of shares. When winding up the company, they will receive something only when every other obligation is paid and such and every entitlement is met. Thank you for being listening my video. Have a good day.